All right, so even though this is kind of a video tutorial lesson, it's actually a project. So if you haven't already decided what you want to make your stencil out, or what the stencil image is going to be, you need to make that decision before you search for it. Keep it fairly simple. You can do faces, you can do objects of all different kinds. I would avoid like landscapes, stuff like that, stuff that's complex. You want something that's like one solid thing, okay, whether it's a fish or a dog or whatever. From there, once you've decided that, you need to find an image that's going to work. Now, the only way to do it is to try it in Illustrator. So step one is you're going to go into Google and you're going to go to Google Images. It doesn't matter if it's a big or big or small size. But what you are looking for is you want to photograph. First of all, you cannot use an illustration. So like that's obviously an illustration. It can't be a drawing or a painting. I'm trying to scroll, see if I have any. Okay, it can't be like that. It can't be, even if you're like, it's a really good drawing or painting. Of course, I'm not seeing any examples now. It needs to be an actual photograph of the object, okay? Because I don't want you stealing illustrations from other people. We're going to take a photograph, we're going to turn it into an illustration. All right, the next thing is you want to find an image that has really good high contrast and you can see the object clearly from the background. So something like this is the nightmare, because we are going to be image tracing, and what image tracing means is the Illustrator program is literally going to look for hard edge lines and it's going to trace them. If things blob together or there's a lot and it confuses one object from another, you're going to have an issue. So something like that is not going to work. Also, if your apple blends into the background, like this one would not be great, because see how you can't really see a good clear line. Also, if your background area is really complex and there's a lot of stuff going on, not good, okay? Like this is not good. You want a nice, clear, clean image. So this one, let's see. So remember, like I said, the only way to know if it's going to work is you gotta run it through and see if it works well. Let me pick one I think will be a bad one, just to show you what I think. Let me go back up to this one. Okay. So once you find your image, you're going to right click and copy, and then we're going to go and open up Illustrator. So we have it in the clipboard, which means it's virtually hanging out here waiting for us to do something with this image. So we're going to go to File, New, and very, very important, you need to make sure that your artboards are set at 1, but most importantly, you need to make sure that you're set to inches for the units, not points or picas, because if you send it to points or picas, your stencil is going to be this big, okay, teeny tiny. So we're going to set it to inches, and I want it set to 11 inches by 14 inches. Double, triple check that it's set to inches before you click OK. All right, so go ahead and stop and do that now. You don't have to find an image yet, but go ahead and stop the video and set up the document and click OK. All right, welcome back. So you have your white document. Let's go ahead and watch me image trace it, and let's see how it does. So I've got my image in the clipboard. You can do this one of two ways. Sometimes it will let you simply right click and go to paste, but if it doesn't, don't freak out. Just go up to edit up the top and paste. And it should paste your image. So the first thing you have to do is you need to make this so that your object, not the square, but the object fits inside of your artboard. So if this is my artboard, I need to make my apple the appropriate size. How do you do that? How do you resize? Yeah, you got it right. You have to drag one of the corners, but you have to do one important thing. What key do you have to hold down so that when you resize it, you shrink it, you're not stretching it or distorting the proportions? Some of you got it right, some of you got it wrong. Shift. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to drag one of those corners. And I'm just going to resize till I think that apple's like the appropriate size. Okay? I think that's a good size. The next step is to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand. Not just make and expand is very important. So I'm going to click that. It might take a while depending on how complex. So notice this is why I said it's not great. I can't even really tell it's an apple. So if that happens to you, just click and drag, select all of it, hit your delete key. Okay? And then you just got to go back to the internet, find a good one. So I'm going to go back to that one I thought was going to be a good one. So it's right here, I think. I'm going to right click and copy. I'm going to go back to Illustrator. I'm going to paste it in there. That's actually a decent size. I'm going to Object, Image Trace, make and expand. Like, oh, that's decent. Okay. All right, so stop the video and do that now with an image. Okay, so you have one that works. It looks decent. It might need some fine tuning though. It's not perfect. We're gonna make it perfect. So we're gonna, first of all, save this. So let's go to File, Save As. Remember, you need to save this in your print shop folder. So always go to this PC, find your folder with your name, find your print shop folder, and we're gonna save this in projects, not lessons, even though you're watching a video, I know, but you're using your own image. So this is an independent project. So double click on projects, and I want you to title this stencil. Very important, because I'm going to have to find these in your student folder later on, especially if you don't upload it correctly to Google Classroom. So call it stencil so that way I know what to look for in your folder. Okay? All right, so we need to prepare this for the laser cutter, and there's some specific things you have to do to make it a good stencil. So we're going to take this, and it's all still grouped together. So click on your object, and I want you to move it to the gray space, and then we're just going to move this over here. All right, the first thing we got to do is we got to get rid of the all that white extra. We don't want it. Okay, we want no white when we're done. That's why we moved it into the gray space, is because we can't tell because the paper's white, right? So we've got to ungroup this thing. So we're going to right click and ungroup, and then click in the gray space to deactivate. And then I want to get rid of this outside green. I don't need it. So I'm going to click on it and hit my delete key, or backspace. Either one works, okay? Now, to make this a good stencil, a couple things you need to know is black islands, okay? So the black is it's the hole in the stencil. Do I have a stencil? Don't go away, or you can jump ahead. Let me get a stencil. See how fast I can run. Okay, so if this is what we're making, you have to think of the black as the openings. Okay, it's the holes. That's where when you spray, the spray paint's going to go through and it's going to print on the shirt. Okay, so black is the holes. You can have a black island, okay? So I'm going to zoom in so you see. So this right here, that's fine, because it's just going to be like a little tiny hole out here. But what is not okay is white islands. Anybody know why? Right, because if I send this through the laser cutter and it cuts out this black shape, guess what happens? That white shape goes with it. So I got a couple things I can do. First thing I have to decide is, do I want that white shape? So if I look at this, I'm like, that's a super important white shape. I need that white shape. Well, you got to create a channel. So if you want the white space, you have to delete it. Don't worry. We're going to click on it, and we're going to hit delete. And then the next thing is we just have to make a channel. So in other words, we've got to connect this open area to this open area out here. The easiest way to do that is to select the black shape that it's surrounded by, grab the eraser tool, and simply erase through that black. Now, that's a pretty thin channel. I might want it to be a little bit bigger. So if I want my eraser tool bigger, I'm going to use the bracket keys. The bracket keys are like the right angle little boxes to the right of the P. So if I hit the right bracket, it's going to make the eraser bigger. If I hit the left, it's going to make it smaller. I'm going to make a channel that's just a little bit bigger. And I'm also going to make two channels, because what that's going to do now, just like here, it's going to connect that inside stuff. Because all of this inside stuff, let me go white so you can see it, all of this inside stuff, they're not white islands, they all kind of flow, connect, and they connect to that outside. Okay? All right, so next thing is, let's say I don't want that island. I don't want to take the time to connect it. I think it'll be dumb, whatever. That's a little bit trickier, okay? We want to get rid of it, but if I just click and delete it, it's there. Now, what you have to do is you have to actually combine that white island with the black. You're not going to delete it. You're going to combine it with the black. And it's not really that difficult. So to do it, you have to click on the black shape it's surrounded by. And then you have to hold down Shift and click on the white shape. What you've done is you've now selected both of those things. Doesn't look like anything happened yet because we have to combine them. You combine them with a tool called the Shape Builder tool. So if I click on this tool and I've got both of these objects selected, all I have to do is brush across the two objects together. I'm going to combine them. It's a shape builder. It builds them together. So you'll notice it's starting, see my hands aren't on a mouse. It's hovering on that black. So it's showing that that's the active shape. If I let it hover on the white, you'll see, if you can look really close, there's the little dots in there. What I have to do is just drag across to have a line touch. So watch as I do it. I'm just going to start. You'll get a plus sign because it means you're going to add two shapes together. I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to drag. There's a little line that will show up. I'm going to drag across that white shape, and then I'm going to release. Notice it's gone. It combined that white shape with the black. So I want to do that over here too. But if I do that, notice it didn't happen. Why? Because I have to select that white. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool, hold down Shift, select it, go back here, and load that in there. Okay? What if there's a black island that I don't want? I'm like, I don't like that shape. That's just weird. You can click on it and just delete it. Get rid of it. The black is easy to get rid of if you don't want it. Like up here, if I'm like, I just don't want any of this leaf, I'm going to click and drag over all of it. I don't want any of it. I'm going to hit delete. Get rid of it. What if I want to be artsy and I want to add more stuff? Hey, more power to you. You can do that. But you have to use shapes. So that's where it gets a little tricky because we haven't learned much in Illustrator yet. You haven't learned how to create a lot of shapes. But if you feel comfortable, so let's say you want to do a different leaf and you actually are pretty good with the pen tool and you know how to make a leaf, you can go for it. I mean, kind of not a great one, but that's okay. All right, so then you're going to spend some time fine tuning. If we scroll in, so I know how to get rid of a black island. What if there's just a little black little nibby here? I don't like that. I want to get rid of it. You can still fine tune your shapes. So I can get rid of that, and that's simple, again, with that eraser tool. So if I click on my black shape, grab my eraser tool, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I can clean up that edge. I can erase that. I can even change the shape. So if I'm like, I want to clean all of this up, I want to make it more smooth, I can do that. For those of you who maybe know Illustrator and you want to get even more advanced, you can. But we're going to keep this pretty basic. Okay, so stop the video and work on getting your image. Okay, so let's save this. We've already hit Save As, so we should just have to go to File, Save. Okay, so you've saved it. The next thing is we've got to move it back on the paper. So I'm going to click and drag over all of it. I'm just going to move it over. I can still resize it if I can be like, that's kind of small, because this is 11 by 14. So if you're like, I want that apple to be really big, I can make it bigger. I could also, let's say I want to be creative and I want to do multiples of this. What if I just want to do like 3 apples across? That's kind of cool. Remember, Alt is copy. I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and make 3 copies. Ooh, I'm getting fancy. Okay. Last thing we have to do is we just have to set some presets so the laser knows what to do with this document. And it's just, all you need to know is you just need to set your line weight this way. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the solid fill and we have to just put a stroke on all of this stuff. So we're going to click and drag across your image. And for your fill, we're going to set it to none. For the stroke, we're going to set it to black. Okay? Then the next step is, and this is the super important part, if you don't get this right, the laser cutter isn't going to work right. So under the stroke point, so the size of the stroke, you need to highlight the 1. You can't, the drop down won't work because this is an option. You have to highlight the 1 and you're going to type in on the keyboard 0.001 and hit enter. It's going to look like a very thin line. All you need to know is that 0.001 is code for the laser cutter, that it knows it has to cut these rather than engrave, because the laser cutter will cut and engrave, which means cut means it cuts all the way through, engrave means it just kind of scratches the surface. So that's all you need to know. Then when you're done, you're going to save it and you're going to submit it. You're going to send it in Google Classroom. Do not export this as a JPEG if you know how to do that. I need it to be an Illustrator file. Okay, very important. That's it. Have some fun. If you need help with your stencil, reach out. I'm here to help. I'll tell you if I think what you're doing is too challenging. I'll be peeking over your shoulders. All right, have some fun. Can't wait to see what you come up with.